Hi, I'm Erin Leach, and you're listening to the In the Middle of It podcast. This is a space for the ambitious woman navigating the beautiful, messy intersection of motherhood, business, and spirituality. We're here to get real about what it actually looks like to build a life that feels aligned from the inside out while moving through the seasons that stretch and shape you into the best version of yourself. So, whether you're in a season of high speed growth or quiet reflection, you're exactly where you're supposed to be. Let's get ready for this week's episode. Hey, friend, welcome back to In the Middle of It. Today, just gonna continue on this kind of informal series that's come through on the evolution of motherhood, evolution of women through motherhood. So, if you've been following along, listening to the past couple episodes, we've already touched on the somewhat maybe intimidating realization that we are more than a mom, and we've sat in the grief of knowing that we're never going to go back to the pre-kid version of ourselves. But today I want to talk more about that feeling in general, that unsettled, like itchy, almost feeling, antsy pants feeling that you feel a little bit more probably when the house is quiet or you're in a space of daydreaming almost. Could be while you're folding a mountain of laundry or staring at the kitchen floor after the kids are down for a nap. And you can have an overwhelming thought that might sound something like, I love them so much, but is this it? I love motherhood, but I don't think it's enough for my soul. And for a lot of women, that can just feel like the ultimate betrayal. So, of course, obviously, what are you going to do? You're just going to shove it away. Like, no, I don't want to feel like that. No, that makes me feel like crap. And we tell ourselves that wanting a life outside of being this household manager is selfish. Or you're probably more so thinking that I'll wait till they're in school. I'll do it when we have more time as a family. We can't afford the childcare right now, so why even bother dreaming about that? But really, those things are just shields at the end of the day. And you're just protecting yourself from really hearing that little intuitive voice, the little niggle in the back of your mind that really just won't shut the bleep up. Because we've been socialized to believe that a good mom is self-sacrificing, and there's this like intensive motherhood narrative where if you aren't emotionally and physically absorbed by your kids 24/7, you're doing something wrong. But if you do give everything to them, society will still judge you for letting yourself go or giving up your edge. It's an impossible double bind. It's ridiculous. And it's designed to keep us in this weird neutral where we're too tired to dream, but also too guilty to do anything else. I went through this whole process of my own, but I think for me, it wasn't quite like wading through quicksand because I was already a little aware. I had read the book Ambitious Mom and a whole bunch of others around being a working mom while I was pregnant because I knew that there's just no way being a stay-at-home mom. That was never in the cards for me. And ironically, I feel like I've kind of found a really nice compromise between the two perspectives where like this year I'm definitely considering doing like a homeschool, preschool kind of program. But yet I still know that I love my business. I love this podcast and I'm going to keep working. But that still was a journey. Even though I was a little aware, it was still a journey, still had to navigate leaning on those logistics as excuses, even though they are truly things that we need to navigate sometimes, and that's fine. So I want to talk a little bit more about this voice in our heads, this intuitive voice within, because sometimes, especially if you've been an entrepreneur before, I think it can get confused and cast aside as just another idea. If you're an entrepreneur, you know that you've had about 97 different business ideas in the past 3 months. A lot of those are exactly that. They're just ideas. And if you've ever read Elizabeth Gilbert's Big Magic, you know her theory, I guess, about ideas. And I've loved it ever since I read it, that these ideas are almost like living presences. They'll visit you, and if they feel like you're not going to do anything about them, they just move on. She tells this whole story about how she had an idea for a book, and either she did write part of it and it didn't go anywhere, or she didn't write it at all, or something like that. She had the idea in her mind and never put pen to paper, like literally. And then she's having a conversation with somebody, like, say, a year later or something, and they are writing that book, like almost down to a T, to the detail. So spooky. So she has this theory of ideas kind of hopping from person to person until they find someone who is actually going to take action on them. But our intuition is different. Our intuition is like a squeaky wheel in our brains because it's tethered to us. It doesn't flit about until it finds somebody willing. It stays and it knocks on your door because it knows this path was carved out for you. So when that voice keeps coming back for months, maybe even years at this point, it's because it knows that you have the capacity to handle this. Knows you're resourced and smart and capable, even if you don't feel that way while you're cleaning up spilled juice and toys that are all over the living room. So if that voice hasn't left you yet, it's because it belongs to you. And that could be in the form of like a legit business idea or any concept. It could be just the basic idea that you would love to be a businesswoman. You have no idea what that business looks like, but maybe you've always been attracted to entrepreneurship type stuff. You like listening to business podcasts, even if you don't have a business, all things like that. It doesn't have to be something specific. It can be super general too, but if it keeps coming back, there's a reason. And even though we keep hearing this little voice in the back of our head, keep hearing intuition knocking on our door, still as moms, it can be really scary to take a leap of faith and do something about that, especially if it means that you might have to rock the boat, so to speak, in your family. And so we come up with all these excuses. Like I said earlier, we tell ourselves that the house is going to fall apart. But really what we're afraid of is probably the vulnerability of being seen as an ambitious woman. And this is why I talk a lot about things like Eve Rodsky's Fair Play. I loved this book as an overall framework and guide for couples. It comes down to more than just a chore chart. She really talks wonderfully about how to approach this conversation with your partner around the division of labor and the household management. And the specific part that I loved the most about her book is her concept of unicorn space. And this intuitive voice that you're hearing is probably around the yearning for your own unicorn space. For Eve, unicorn space is that time that you get to go after things that fill your cup. And usually they also have a positive ripple effect in the community around you in some way. So it might just be volunteering or doing some advocacy work, or it could be starting a business, whatever that looks like for you. But to get to unicorn space and to know that you and your partner are on the same page around expectations for the million things that need to get done at home. She gives a really great framework for having the conversation and looking at everything that you both do at home and acknowledging that you don't need a 50-50 split, but most likely, if you are the one saying that your house is going to fall apart, if you go after this thing that your intuition is telling you to, then some sort of balance needs to be had. And it can be really, really, really scary to advocate for yourself because it's maybe the first time that you're going to acknowledge that you need more in your life than just motherhood. Maybe historically your partner has maybe not been quite so supportive sometimes. So this can be really intimidating to start a conversation around. But if you are considering, I would highly, highly recommend checking out the book Fair Play. And I hope / I kind of know that hopefully it will help you feel a little bit more confident in approaching this conversation. Because this feeling left alone, or if anything, also suppressed, this restless feeling that you are more than mom can have far more serious impacts than you think. It can lead to a lot of resentment towards everyone, weirdly, not just your partner, but also your kids and your family. It can lead to burnout, it can lead to so many things. And it might be a really challenging journey to acknowledge this conversation with your partner, or maybe you think it is, and it's actually going to be a lot easier than you thought it was. And it'll be one of those things that you're like, dang, why did I wait so long to do this? And for some of you listening, this might be the first time you've heard someone say that it's okay to want more. And even though I wish that that was not true, I'm glad you're hearing it now. Better late than never, right? And my goal as a coach and a guide is to create a community where you can say comfortably, confidently, I love my kids, but I need this business or this creative outlet or this vision in order to fill my soul. And also have a dozen other women who say, heck yeah, me too. And we move from uncertain to unstoppable, not by having all of the answers right away, but by taking one small aligned step towards that intuitive voice that we have. Your life is going to open up in ways you can't even imagine. The moment that you finally decide to step up and bet on yourself. So in some future episodes, we're going to talk a little bit more about when you do finally start taking these steps, and people may inevitably have some feelings around it. And usually it's unfortunately the people who are closest to us, and how to deal with some of that maybe like low-key judgment, even if it comes from a good place, and talk about the fear that we might hold around this whole journey ahead of us. So stay tuned for the next few episodes. And until then, remember that you are allowed to dream, and those dreams really do matter. I'll see you. Thank you so much for spending a little bit of your day with me here in the middle of it. If something we talked about today has sparked a little light for you, I'd love for you to help me pass that on. The best way to do that is to head over to your podcast player, hit follow, and leave a 5-star rating or review. I know it probably sounds like a small thing, but it's actually how we make sure more women find these conversations and realize that they are not alone in their own messy middle. But I wouldn't even stop there. If you have a friend, or maybe even your mom, who is navigating her own season of growth right now, shoot her a quick text with this episode and just a simple, like, hey, I thought of you. That can mean so much to her. And if you're feeling extra fancy or you just want to say hi, take a screenshot, tag me at I'm Erin Leach, and share it to your stories. I love seeing who's listening and actually connecting with you guys over Instagram or TikTok. It's just at Erin Leach. Because together, we're really just creating a trail for each other, right? And reshaping how we show up for ourselves and the women around us. I can't wait to chat with you more in the DMs. I'll be right back here with you next week.